Imagine you're at the gym,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe playing a pickup game, and suddenly you tear a ligament.
Oh, that is the worst feeling. Just a
Yeah.
total nightmare.
Yeah, it really is. Because historically, that kind of structural damage, it demands like, what, 9 agonizing months of rest?
Easily. 9 months, yeah.
Plus invasive surgery, grueling physical therapy. It's just a long road. But imagine if you could just inject a specific compound that essentially acts like a biological fast-forward button.
Right, just massively accelerating how quickly that damage knits itself back together.
Exactly. I mean, it sounds like complete science fiction, but this is a very real conversation happening in sports medicine right now.
It really is.
So today's deep dive is powered by a comprehensive source from Era Organics. It's authored by Nikki Chase. And we are looking at a synthetic peptide called TB-500.
And what's fascinating here is that we are looking at, the absolute bleeding edge of regenerative research.
Oh, definitely.
This compound sits entirely at this wild intersection of natural human biology and synthetic engineering. I mean, we're looking at a molecule designed to basically bypass the body's natural, painfully slow timeline for repairing connective tissue.
Right. So our mission today is to really dissect the science behind this trendy peptide. We want to separate the actual biological facts from, the internet hype.
Yeah, there's a lot of hype out there.
So much hype.
Yeah.
And we also need to uncover the very real, very serious risks of using an unapproved research compound.
Absolutely. Because there are major risks.
So we aren't just going to list off dry medical facts today. We are going to really look under the hood to understand exactly how your body rebuilds itself at a cellular level.
And why manipulating that process is so incredibly controversial.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because before we figure out how it heals the body, we have to know what it actually is, right?
What?
It's come from.
Right. So to understand why researchers are so captivated by TB-500, we actually have to step back and look at the natural blueprint it was copied from.
Okay, so it's a copy of something natural.
Exactly. The human body already possesses a mechanism for this kind of repair. It's driven by a naturally occurring protein called thymosin beta-4.
Thymosin beta-4.
Or TB4 for short.
Wait, so our bodies already make a version of this, like right now?
Yes. TB4 is found in nearly all human and animal cells. It's this vital protein, and its main job is to regulate tissue repair, manage cellular regeneration, and control inflammatory responses when you get injured.
Okay, but if our bodies are already manufacturing TB4 to heal us naturally, why on earth is there this multi-million-dollar underground market for the synthetic version?
Well,
I mean, why not just use what we already have?
it really comes down to biological efficiency and, frankly, physical size.
Size, like how big the molecule is.
Exactly. So in biochemistry, we measure molecular weight in a unit called Daltons.
Daltons, of course.
Right, and the full-length natural TB4 protein is actually quite heavy. It has a molecular weight of 4,921 Daltons.
So that's big for a protein.
It is a massive, complex molecule, yeah. In the broader research world, TB4 is studied extensively for major systemic issues like cardiac tissue repair after a heart attack.
Oh, wow. So it does some heavy lifting.
It does. But researchers eventually realized that the entire massive protein wasn't actually doing the heavy lifting for localized muscle repair.
Wait, what do you mean? Like only a piece of it was working?
Precisely. They isolated the active region. It's a much smaller sequence of just 43 amino acids.
Okay, and that isolated sequence, that's the TB-500.
That is TB-500, yes. And because it's just that small slice, it has a molecular weight of only 2,113 Daltons.
So it's less than half the size of the parent protein.
Exactly, less than half. I like to think of it this way. If natural TB4 is a massive, heavy, encyclopedic instruction manual for healing the body,
then TB-500 is like the SparkNotes version.
yes, it's a hyper-efficient, zipped file that contains only the specific instructions needed for muscle and tendon repair.
I love that analogy. It's the SparkNotes. So because it is this lightweight, zipped file, it can travel through the body much easier than the massive encyclopedia could.
Right. That reduction in size directly creates higher bioavailability.
Meaning the body absorbs it better.
Exactly. When a molecule is smaller, it can cross tissue barriers and enter the bloodstream with far less resistance. Your body absorbs it faster and utilizes it more effectively.
Makes sense.
That's really why sports medicine researchers focus on TB-500 for acute injuries, like a torn hamstring or a sprained joint, rather than relying on the bulky natural TB4 protein.
The source also points out a very practical reason for synthesizing this smaller slice. The cost.
Oh, yeah, the financials are a huge factor.
Manufacturing the massive natural TB4 protein is apparently complex and super expensive. It runs anywhere from $50 to $200 a vial, depending on the research supplier.
Right, which adds up fast.
But creating the synthetic, lightweight TB-500 is significantly cheaper. That runs between $30 and $120 a vial.
So researchers are essentially working with a compound that is cheaper to produce, highly bioavailable, and mimics the exact active tissue repair mechanisms of a natural human protein.
Okay, so we have this tiny, highly mobile peptide. But being small doesn't just magically heal a torn tendon, right? What is it actually doing once it gets inside the muscle?
Right.
The source talks extensively about something called actin upregulation, but I am definitely going to need some help translating that.
Sure, so let's look at the cellular level. Actin is a vital structural protein inside your cells. It basically forms the cytoskeleton.
The cytoskeleton, like the cell skeleton.
Exactly. It's the actual physical scaffolding that gives a cell its shape. But actin is dynamic. It constantly builds up and breaks down.
Okay.
And that buildup and breakdown is the exact mechanism that allows a cell to physically move and migrate through the body.
Wait, so by binding to actin, TB-500 is essentially telling the body to build more of the scaffolding at the site of the injury.
It's shifting the cell into overdrive, yeah. When TB-500 upregulates actin, it drastically accelerates cellular migration.
Okay, so it gets things moving.
Exactly. It signals vital repair cells to move rapidly into the damaged area. We are talking about fibroblasts.
Fibroblasts, those are the ones that make collagen, right?
Yes. They manufacture collagen to rebuild torn connective tissues like tendons. And it also signals myoblasts.
And what do myoblasts do?
They are the cells responsible for repairing broken muscle fibers.
Okay, but I have a question here. If TB-500 is a systemic compound, meaning I inject it into my shoulder, but it travels through my entire bloodstream.
Right, it goes everywhere.
How does it actually know that my knee is the part that's injured? Does it somehow seek out the damage like a homing beacon?
Well, the peptide itself doesn't possess a homing beacon.
No.
No. Instead, the injury site is broadcasting distress signals. When you tear a tissue, those damaged cells express specific receptors on their surface.
Like they were crying out for help.
Exactly. They are crying out for repair materials. So as the TB-500 circulates everywhere in your blood, it acts like a key passively bumping into locks.
Oh, I see.
It just ignores healthy tissue. But when it passes the distressed tissue in your knee, it locks into those exposed receptors.
And once it attaches...
Once attached, it triggers that massive actin scaffolding buildup.
So it's essentially paving the cellular highways directly at the crash site.
That paints a perfect picture.
And that allows the biological ambulances, the fibroblasts and the myoblasts, to speed directly to the damage without getting stuck in traffic.
That's a great analogy for cellular migration. But, getting the biological ambulances to the site is really only one piece of the puzzle.
There's more.
Yeah. The second major mechanism of TB-500 is that it stimulates angiogenesis.
Angiogenesis. Okay, the creation of brand new blood vessels. Now, this is where I have to push back a little bit.
Okay, go ahead.
If I have a dense, chronically scarred knee tendon that has had terrible blood flow for like 5 years, this peptide just spontaneously commands veins to grow into it. I mean, how is that even biologically possible?
It sounds crazy, but it happens through cellular signaling pathways.
Yeah.
TB-500 increases the production of something called vascular endothelial growth factor.
Vascular endothelial growth factor.
Yes.
VEGF.
Yes, VEGF. When this growth factor floods a damaged, poorly circulated area like dense scar tissue, it binds to the endothelial cells that line your existing distant blood vessels.
Okay.
And it essentially commands those cells to divide, break outward, and form new microscopic tubes that extend directly into that dead zone.
It is literally building new biological plumbing.
It has to. If you don't have blood flow, you don't have oxygen or nutrients.
Right.
It doesn't matter how many fibroblasts rush to the injury. Without oxygen, they cannot synthesize collagen. TB-500 forces the creation of a local supply line to keep those repair cells fed.
That is wild to think about. Your body just sprouting new veins. And there's a third pillar to this healing process, right? The source mentions the suppression of pro-inflammatory cytokines.
Yeah, and this is arguably what makes the compound so transformative.
Really? More than the new blood vessels.
Well, think about it. When you suffer an injury, your immune system rushes in and creates acute inflammation. Swelling, heat, redness.
Right, which hurts, but it's normal.
It's a necessary alarm system. But if that immune response stays active for too long, those inflammatory cytokines start breaking down healthy tissue.
Oh, I see.
Chronic inflammation literally physically prevents fibroblasts from doing their job.
So the body basically gets stuck in a loop. It's trying to heal, but it's constantly attacking itself.
Exactly. And by suppressing those specific pro-inflammatory cytokines, TB-500 flips the biological switch from alarm mode back to rebuild mode.
It stops your immune system from dragging out the recovery time.
It just shuts down that destructive loop.
So you have this systemic compound, paving the cellular highways, building new blood vessel plumbing, and shutting down destructive inflammation, all at the exact same time.
It's incredibly potent.
It sounds like it. Which brings up the obvious question of delivery. I hate needles. Millions of people hate needles. Can I just swallow a TB-500 pill or, I don't know, rub a cream on my bad knee?
The short answer is absolutely not.
Not at all.
No. To understand why, you have to look at the fragility of the molecule. Injectable administration is really the only way the biological math works.
Okay, but why does swallowing a pill ruin it?
Because of the evolutionary design of your gastrointestinal tract. If
No.
you swallow a capsule containing TB-500, that 43 amino acid sequence first hits your stomach acid.
And the acid just denatures it.
Exactly. It begins tearing it apart immediately. And whatever survives enters your intestines, where it encounters digestive enzymes, specifically proteases and peptidases.
Okay, and what do those do?
They act like molecular scissors. Their entire biological purpose is to chop protein chains into tiny, isolated amino acids for basic nutrition.
So they just shred it.
They will shred the TB-500 sequence into useless fragments long before it can ever absorb into your bloodstream.
Wow, so taking an oral peptide is essentially just engaging in really expensive, completely useless digestion.
That's a funny way to put it, but yes.
What about topical creams?
Yeah.
That bypasses the stomach.
True, but topical bioavailability is abysmal. The human skin barrier is an incredibly effective evolutionary defense mechanism.
Keep stuff out.
Exactly. While TB-500 is small compared to its parent protein, a 43 amino acid chain is still far too massive to simply pass through the dermal layers in any therapeutic concentration.
So no pills, no creams.
Bypassing the digestive tract and the skin barrier requires a needle. There's just no way around it.
Okay, and the preparation of that injection sounds highly specific too. The source mentions that TB-500 arrives as a, quote, lyophilized powder that you have to mix with bacteriostatic water.
Right.
Can you translate that for us?
Sure. Lyophilized simply means it has been freeze-dried. Peptides are highly unstable in liquid form. If you left liquid TB-500 sitting on a shelf at room temperature, the fragile peptide bonds would degrade into mush within days.
So they freeze dry it to preserve it.
Exactly. By freeze-drying it, they lock the molecular structure in place.
And the bacteriostatic water, why not just use, like, regular sterile water from a pharmacy?
Sterile water is pure, yes, but once you puncture the vial with a needle to draw out a dose, you introduce the risk of contamination.
Oh, because you're repeatedly sticking a needle in it.
Right. Bacteriostatic water contains a tiny amount of benzyl alcohol, usually around 0.9%.
And that stops the bacteria.
It doesn't kill bacteria outright, but it halts their reproduction, so it keeps the reconstituted peptide sterile for the weeks it sits in your refrigerator.
Okay, so once you mix this freeze-dried powder, how are people actually administering it? The source mentions two routes, subcutaneous and intramuscular.
Yeah, so subcutaneous means using a very small needle to inject just 4 to 6 millimeters deep into fatty tissue, usually on the abdomen.
Like insulin shots.
Exactly like insulin. Because fat has lower blood flow, the peptide absorbs slowly and steadily into the system.
And intramuscular.
Intramuscular requires a longer needle, like 25 to 38 millimeters. You go deep into a vascularized muscle belly, like the shoulder or the deltoid.
Which hurts more, I imagine.
A bit, yes. But it results in a slightly faster systemic uptake. Though, honestly, in practical research terms, the therapeutic outcomes between the two are virtually identical.
Good to know. Let's talk about the actual dosing protocols outlined in the source, because it doesn't just suggest taking a little bit every day like a vitamin.
No, definitely not.
It outlines a very deliberate loading phase, followed by a maintenance phase. Why that specific structure?
It is all about receptor saturation. During the loading phase, which typically runs for 4 to 6 weeks, researchers administer the peptide 2 to 3 times a week.
Okay, and what's the dosage there?
They use larger doses, ranging from 2 to 2.5 milligrams per injection.
So roughly 4 to 7.5 milligrams a week total, depending on whether it's like a minor strain or a major tissue tear.
Exactly. And this high frequency is required because peptides have relatively short half-lives in the body. They don't stick around long.
Right.
Administering it multiple times a week builds up a steady concentration in the blood plasma, completely saturating the tissue receptors to forcefully kickstart that massive actin and angiogenesis cascade.
And then, I assume, once the healing is clearly underway, you drop into the maintenance phase.
Which lasts another 4 to 6 weeks. You drop the frequency to just once a week or even once every 2 weeks, but you maintain that same 2 milligram dose.
So you don't lower the dose, just how often you take it.
Right. You no longer need to flood the system. You are just keeping the biological repair engine idling until the tissue is fully remodeled.
Here's where it gets really interesting. We are talking about forcefully overriding the body's natural pace, right? We are demanding rapid cell growth, we're building new blood vessels, and aggressively suppressing the immune system's inflammatory response. There has to be a biological toll. What is the catch here?
Well, any compound that heavily alters cellular signaling pathways carries inherent risks. The body desires homeostasis, so when you push it this hard, there are absolutely consequences.
Let's start with the immediate side effects. The source mentions basic injection site reactions, redness and bruising, which, makes sense. You're poking yourself with a needle.
Right, very common.
But it also highlights temporary lethargy or heavy fatigue lasting for a few days after the injection.
Why does it make you so tired?
If you think about the mechanisms we just discussed, extreme fatigue is actually biologically logical.
Because it's working so hard.
Exactly. Your body is suddenly being commanded to aggressively ramp up cellular repair, build scaffolding, and divide endothelial cells.
That sounds exhausting.
It requires a massive caloric and metabolic energy expenditure, and that presents systemically as exhaustion while the body just scrambles to keep up with the demands. Wow. There are also reports of nausea during the high-dose loading phase, as well as headaches. I'm guessing the headaches are tied directly to the new blood vessels.
Spot on. It's the vasodilatory effect of angiogenesis.
Vasodilatory, so widening of the blood vessels.
Right. When the body starts stimulating new blood vessel formation and manipulating growth factors, it inevitably changes localized blood flow dynamics and pressure.
And that causes the headache.
That shift in cranial blood pressure frequently manifests as a mild to moderate headache.
Okay, but those are just the mild hurdles. The source outlines some severe structural risks, and the most alarming one has to be tumor growth.
Yes. If we connect this to the broader oncological picture, angiogenesis is a terrifying double-edged sword.
Because it feeds everything.
Yes. Creating new blood vessels heals torn tendons, sure. But you know what else requires a massive constant blood supply to survive and grow?
Tumors.
Tumors.
So if a person has dormant, undetected cancer cells, or even a very small pre-existing tumor, injecting TB-500 could theoretically build a brand new network of blood vessels directly to that tumor.
It is a profound risk. Tumors constantly secrete chemical signals begging the body for blood flow.
Right.
If you introduce a systemic compound that indiscriminately promotes blood vessel formation, you are handing the tumor exactly what it needs to thrive.
That is terrifying.
To be clear, the peptide doesn't spontaneously create cancer out of healthy cells.
Right, doesn't cause the cancer.
No, but it creates an incredibly dangerous environment where hidden cancers can rapidly accelerate.
It's like aggressively fertilizing your lawn because you want a dead patch of grass to grow back faster. Yes, the grass will grow, but you're also going to supercharge any aggressive weeds that happen to be hiding in the dirt.
That is a perfect visualization of the risk. You are hyper-fertilizing the entire cellular environment without knowing exactly what is buried in the tissue.
The source also warns about severe drug interactions. Like, if someone is on an anticoagulant, like warfarin or an immunosuppressant, introducing TB-500 can dangerously amplify bleeding tendencies or cause immune dysregulation.
Because you are layering an unregulated synthetic peptide that fundamentally alters blood vessel formation and immune cytokines on top of pharmaceuticals designed to control those exact systems.
You're just throwing a wrench in the gears.
The cascading effects are entirely unpredictable when you mix them.
Which leads us directly to the biggest, most neon red flag in the entire source document, the supply chain. TB-500 is not approved by the FDA for human therapeutic use.
Not at all. It is classified strictly as a research compound. It exists in a total regulatory gray area.
So is this actually safe for the average listener to use?
A hard no. Absolutely not.
Because anyone buying it online is navigating a complete Wild West. You aren't getting this from a highly regulated pharmacy.
Right. If you buy from a shady supplier, you risk improper freeze-drying, entirely fake concentrations, or honestly, much worse contamination with bacterial endotoxins. Endotoxins.
Yeah, if a laboratory lacks strict sterilization protocols, bacterial waste ends up in the lyophilized powder.
Oh, gross.
And injecting endotoxins directly into your subcutaneous fat or deep into a muscle belly, that can trigger catastrophic systemic inflammatory responses, sepsis, or localized necrotic infections requiring emergency medical intervention.
That's horrifying. The source insists that the absolute bare minimum safeguard is demanding a third-party certificate of analysis, a COA,
Yes, a COA is crucial.
to verify that an independent lab has confirmed the purity and the absence of heavy metals or bacteria. But even with a perfect COA, we have to look at the reality here. We only have data from animal models, right?
Exactly. There are no long-term human clinical trials showing what this does to our physiology over a decade.
We're basically flying blind.
We are operating entirely outside of established medical safety parameters. Messing with foundational cellular signaling pathways, especially regarding angiogenesis and immune suppression, without rigorous long-term human data is a profound gamble. Wow. So let's bring all of this together. We're looking at an incredibly powerful, highly bioavailable synthetic slice of a natural human protein.
Right.
It works by paving cellular highways for repair cells, aggressively building new blood vessels to rush oxygen into dead zones, and shutting down destructive chronic inflammation.
It provides a measurable, almost unprecedented acceleration in structural tissue repair. That is exactly why it dominates the conversation at the bleeding edge of regenerative medicine and sports science.
But that acceleration requires precise reconstitution, strict injection protocols, and carrying the massive, unquantified risks of feeding dormant tumors and navigating a dangerous, unregulated supply chain.
Understanding the precise biological mechanisms of TB-500 really gives us a window into the future of medicine. We are learning exactly how the body heals itself and discovering how to manipulate those specific levers.
It really is wild. And it leaves you with something fascinating to ponder. If our human cells already naturally produce the parent protein, TB4, at what point does synthesizing and concentrating its most active part cross the line?
That's the big philosophical question, right?
Yeah. I mean, as these peptides become more advanced, more accessible, and more deeply understood, society is going to have to figure out where natural recovery ends and artificial biohacking begins. Are we just helping a tendon heal, or are we actively upgrading the human machine?
It's a fine line.
But definitely something to think about the next time you are sitting there with an ice pack on a sore knee.
Yeah.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, and we'll catch you next time.